your spiritual future. Now, discipleship has been defined as following Jesus for a long time in the same direction. Now, you might say that all of my messages are designed to help you become a lifer. Now, I'm telling you, I know it's hard to be a lifer. Listen, when I grew up, baseball was my passion. You would have thought I would have been a lifer following baseball. I do not follow baseball today. I am not a lifer anymore. Now, right now, I follow football, NBA playoffs. Am I a lifer? I really don't know right now. I don't know. But now following Jesus is different. I mean, it is to be a lifer. And yet I can tell you name after name after name after name that, like me, in baseball, they parted ways with Jesus years ago. Well, I want to be a lifer. Because as you go along the road of life, there are challenges and obstacles to being a lifer. And, I went to college, lost a little bit of passion for baseball there. And when Carol and I got married, we took a trip, and I had a speaking opportunity up in New York somewhere. And I said, let's go by the Baseball Hall of Fame. She didn't go in. I did. I wasn't in there 20 minutes. It's like, you know what? I'm done. I mean, it just doesn't excite me. It just didn't. I tried. It didn't. And I don't do baseball anymore. Now, don't cry, shed tears or anything, but I'm not a lifer when it comes to baseball. And things get in the way. And then I think, no wonder Hannah's prayer is in the Bible, because she encountered one of the greatest dilemmas in her prayer life that we all face, and maybe it's one of the top 5 questions in Christianity, and that's unanswered prayer. It affects all of us. And in a sense, Hannah's dilemma is at an even higher level, because she's in the middle of an emotional storm. Wow. Now, okay, if you were, we got any private pilots in here? I don't know that we do. So, but in the textbooks, if you, early on in studying to be a pilot, you have to deal extensively with the challenges of unexpected and dangerous weather conditions. Okay. And here's why. Anybody can fly, for the most part. Any pilot can fly when it's nice sun weather, clear, sunny, winds are calm. Throw in thunderstorms, lightning, high winds, all that. That's a little more challenging. And anybody can follow Jesus when life's going great. It's the obstacles and the challenges that get in the way. And everybody's going to be tested. People say, well, I'm going to start tithing. Boom. Motor goes out. Or I'm going to start reading my Bible. Oh, man, my alarm didn't go off. And then the day gets by, that didn't happen. I invite somebody to church. They don't come. It's like, wow, everything I make a commitment to do, it doesn't work out for me. What's the use? But the Bible reminds us. Look, Peter said, look, you ought to rejoice about these things. You're going through incredible trials. It's only to test the genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold, that perishes, though it be tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Now, Hannah has this incredible prayer, and you've been with us. She's barren, she can't have kids, she's dying to have a kid, and we can't rehearse the whole story, but here's what we know at this point. If her prayer gets answered, who gets the glory? God. There's no way she can say, look at me. No. I mean, it's been like 5 long years at least. No, she can't have a kid. No medical technology in her day. So if she has a child, God has to do it. But there is something within all of us that question the efficacy of prayer, like, what good is it? Really, what good is it? We all face that. Because unanswered prayer will do that to you. Now, here's what I know. I don't know that Satan really cares if you invite somebody. I don't know if he really cares if you were to tithe. As long as you don't pray. See, prayer is what really bothers him, I think. Because he understands the power of prayer, and he understands it can change a lot of things. Listen, Hannah's prayer changed the course of history for Israel and the world. A woman's prayer, one woman. I don't think he's too happy about prayer because it can change your life. I know we get hung up on the issue of unanswered prayer, perhaps, and we could spend some time, which we can't do. We're not going to take that, and we could talk about unconfessed sin, broken relationships, a lot of stuff. But I want to look at Hannah's prayer and see what we can learn from hers today. I mean, even the disciples were intrigued by the prayers of Jesus, and they said, "Can you teach us?" Thomas Brooks, an old pastor from way back, said, "The power of religion and godliness lives, thrives, dies as closet or private prayer lives, thrives, or dies." In other words, he went on to say, godliness never rises to a higher pitch than when men keep closest to the closets. Private prayer is the secret key of heaven, and that unlocks all the treasures of glory to the soul. So, my prayer life, that's really who I am, spiritually speaking. It's like a barometer. So my prayer life is the barometer. It's not, oh, I invited 11 people this week to church. That's not a barometer of their spiritual life, all right? See, and that's great. I mean, that's awesome. But that doesn't tell me a whole lot, all right? But your prayer life does, and it's in private, so none of us know. You look around the room today, none of us know the other person's private prayer life. We have no idea, okay? But that is the barometer. And we're always challenged to pray by Jesus at all times. We're told to be devoted to prayer. We're told to pray without ceasing. Why? Because that's the barometer. And here's the deal. Don't get hung up on posture. The Bible doesn't. In the Bible, people pray standing, kneeling, bowing, hands in the air, laying on the ground. Oh, you name it, they're doing it. So you can drive while you're driving. You can pray while you're driving. You can do, you know. So we're not going to get hung up on prayers. Jesus prayed in the cave, on the mountain, in the wilderness, on a housetop. Paul prayed on the beach, huh? Some of you are like, hey, I won't be here next week. I'm going to go pray on the beach like Paul, okay? So, but whatever. All right, so let's not worry too much about the mechanics, and it's easy to get hung up. And I don't want to get hung up on the mechanics because it's the heart that matters. It's the heart. Now, we left off last week, and Hannah was weeping bitterly and wondering if God had forgotten her. So what do you do when you're disappointed, distressed, and discouraged? You begin to doubt the efficacy of prayer. Hannah's been praying for 5 long years. I mean, would you start doubting? When you know what I'm saying? You might start doubting after a week, depending on what you're praying for. But our time is short, so we're going to get on, and we're going to skip some of the unanswered prayer issues, and let's be a little honest. We're far too pragmatic when it comes to prayer. Social psychologists say that within any behavior, we ask these 4 questions. Will it work for me? All right? Now, when it comes to prayer, you do ask that. Now, you may not literally ask that in your mind, but it's in your mind. Can I do it? Can I pray? Can I invite somebody? I don't know. Can I read my Bible? I mean, I'm talking about reading my Bible effectively, understanding it, get something out of it. Can I do that? And people ask that. What's it worth to me? Okay, if I spend an hour or 30 minutes in prayer and Bible reading, I mean, what's it worth to me? Because we're so pragmatic and tangible. Listen, I was telling Mike before the service, see, one thing I loved about construction work, when you went to work and got done at the end of the day, you had something that you could look at physically and say, hey, I got something done. I can read, I can pray, I can study for 8 hours, let's say, and maybe I don't have a couple little notes to show for it. Now, that's hard on me. I mean, it is. Because once a message is done, that helps. And here's the deal. Your prayer life, your reading the Bible, you're going to deal with the same thing. If you're wired, now that's the way I'm wired. I got to see something. If you're wired like that, this becomes incredibly challenging at times in your own life. You can't see anything. I prayed 45 minutes a day. I did that 3 times this week, whatever. I mean, whatever your criteria is, you're like, I don't have anything show for it. And then you start to wonder about, is it worth it? And once again, Hannah's been going on. At what point do you say, hey, this baby, I'm never going to get pregnant? She didn't. And anyway. Now, I want to zero in on the last question. That's number 4. What will it cost me? Because everything has a cost. I mean, it does. You want to go out to eat? It costs money. What's it cost? I don't want to spend the money. Or I don't want to give up my Saturday. Where I got to go? I don't want to give up my Saturday. I don't want to give up my Sunday morning. I invited a guy one time to church, and he rides bikes on Sunday morning. So now he said, no, that's my bike riding time. You know the words? No, I got to give up bike riding. I said, well, ride on Saturday. No, his Sunday morning. Okay, so it was going to cost him to come to church to give up Sunday morning bike riding. All right? So to him, it wasn't worth it. All right? Everything comes with a cost. Prayer comes with a cost. There are 2 things in Hannah's prayer I want to talk about today. These are the 2 toughest things that I see in her prayer. Now, these are not in your prayers, but these 2 will come up in your prayer life. So let's go back to verse 11 for a moment and let's look at the first one. Here's the first one. Sacrifice. We sang a song today that says, holding nothing back. Here's what Hannah prayed. So she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your servant and remember me, and we said that word remember, act on my behalf, and in her case, I get pregnant, and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head. Now, you can go home and find some information about the Nazirite vow and all that, but that's beyond our study. But I've lost track of the number of people who will pray when they're in a dire state, and they'll say, Lord, if you'll get me out of this mess, I will. And then when God gets them out of the mess, when they bail, because now they're okay. They don't need God, all right? I've seen that too much. But Hannah so wanted God to look on her misery, that he would answer her prayer and give her a son. And she knew God could. But you know what's interesting? She uses the same words and phrases that the children of Israel used back in Exodus. God, look on our affliction and all this. And that's intriguing to me because Israel had been in Egypt for 400 years, been in slavery for I don't know how long. So she knew that this could take some time. She's using the same prayers basically that they said. But she knew that God could answer her prayer just like he eventually answered Israel's prayer. It did deliver them from Egypt. And she knew it took a long time and all that. And it's like, so I'm going to trust in the sovereignty and the goodness of God despite the longevity of my affliction. Now, sacrifice. Because she's going to give her son back to the Lord. All right? He's not going to be at home. I mean, she's eventually going to give her child at a young age to serve the Lord, and so he's not going to live at home. She's going to give up her son. Now, how well does it look? I mean, what does sacrifice look at? Now, that's quite a sacrifice to give up your son. Now, of course, we know God gave up his son. That's a sacrifice. But okay. How are you aware of people who have sacrificed? I don't mean they had or they didn't use and they gave that up. That's not a sacrifice. Are you with me? That's very fine and gentle, nice, good thing to do. But I'm talking about somebody gave up a vacation to support a missionary or a cause or whatever. Or somebody who had a second home. They used, but they're like, no, you're giving it up. I'm going to sacrifice. I don't know that sacrifice is something that believers are well acquainted with. Because, listen, sacrifice, it hurts. And it costs you a lot. Now, I'm not saying you cancel your vacation. Can you imagine them telling your kids, well, we're not going to Disney World this summer because something's come up and we feel like this is what we need to do. I don't know anybody that's ever done that. Not saying you should, but you would think out of the thousands of Christians in this country, surely there's a percentage or there's some that canceled their vacation to Disney World. Or something. Somebody at least came up. Now, that'd be a sacrifice. We're not going this year. I mean, wow. That's heavy. Or whatever it is. But it costs and it hurts. Got that tax refund coming. And all of a sudden it crosses your mind, we were going to go to the beach for the weekend on that. And now we're going to, you know what? We're not doing that. We're giving it up. I don't know. We're all different. What does sacrifice look like in your life? Now, the only thing I would suggest, have you sacrificed, and I don't have a magic number, in the last 5 years. And what did that look like? The last 10? All I'm saying is, I think a lot of believers would have a hard time, I gave up my Saturday one day. Okay, that's cool. That's great. But I don't sacrifice. It's going to cost you something. Ministry is a funny thing. Now, not everybody who goes into the ministry has to sacrifice or give up something. I mean, they don't. I mean, we're all different. For some people who go into the ministry, there is a sacrifice. There is. I still remember, and I don't know the mentality per se, but it used to be like, oh wow, I don't want to go to the mission field. That's just too much of a sacrifice. For some people, to leave America is just something they couldn't understand. So they would say, well, I would never surrender that because if I did, I might go to the mission field. A little different for me. I went to Kenya twice. I tried to be a missionary. Now, I really struggled to learn a language that you have to speak. I did fine in Greek and Hebrew because they're unspoken languages. I mean, biblical Hebrew is different than modern Hebrew. I mean, it's got its crossovers, but so I do okay if I don't have to speak it. I tried. And when I met Carol, I told her, I said, look, I'm trying to be a missionary. And so if we do get married, I could wind up over there. And, of course, I never did because I didn't feel called. I just never. But all I know is it's always been normal for people to try to avoid sacrifice because it's costly and it hurts. You tell me Hannah's going to give up her child, there's not going to be some emotional hurt there? I mean, it's sacrifice. So I don't know how prevalent it is, even among believers, but I think it's something that as believers, you got to really search your heart and ask. The theology of sacrifice is clear in Leviticus 17:11 in your notes. For the life of the flesh is in the blood. I love this verse. And it says, now listen, I want you to read it here. And I have given it for you on the altar to make atonement for your souls, for it's the blood that makes atonement by the life. Now, listen. Here's what it says literally. Circle the phrase, I have given it for you. Here's what God says. I myself. See, that personal pronoun is in there, a little extra. Because God says, look, I am setting the example. I'll go first. And he did. This was just a picture of when Jesus Christ would come. He gave his son. I'll go first. Set the example. Yeah, it's costly. It's costly. So on the one hand, sacrificial blood was for the purpose of making atonement. However, God makes it clear that he is the one who ultimately takes care of sins by the sacrifice of himself on the cross. God led the way when it came to sacrifice. So what does sacrifice, or what would it look like in your life? And it would look different. I mean, it would be fun, and I'm not asking we do this as an exercise, but it would be fun if everybody in here, you might not be able to do it in the next week, but you can say, this is probably, and you might not know until God speaks to you. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. And this was after 5 years, and this, I don't know if Hannah ever prayed this before, but it was sacrifice. And then one more tough thing, perseverance. Perseverance. Perseverance is not for the faint of heart. I remember when we were out in the Grand Tetons and we were hiking and we hiked up, it was a pretty steep, rocky climb for a while. And then you kind of get up to this spot and it's nice and flat. Nobody goes any, I am telling you, there's a ton of us going up there, but I mean, after we kept hiking, and me, Carol, Adam, Rachel, Savannah, and Gabe, we went from like probably 100 or so hikers to like 10 or 15. They're done. I mean, perseverance is hard. Perseverance is hard. Joseph sat in a prison cell for well over a decade. Still going. John Bunyan, who wrote The Pilgrim's Progress, one of the greatest Christian books of all time, wrote it in the 1600s, wrote it in a prison cell, sat there for 12 years. Perseverance. Perseverance. Did you know King Tut was almost not King Tut? I mean, what I mean is today he's known around the world and all of his treasures and all that, but we didn't know about all those treasures until this guy discovered it. But Howard Carter, who was an archaeologist, he ignored the skeptics and persevered. He kept looking. He wanted to find King Tut. This was back in 1904. Now listen, he's at the age of 31. He is broke and has no job. Now in archaeology, you really can't dig without permission and money. You need that. Well, he got hitched up through a series of events with a guy in 1911, Lord Carnarvon, and helped fund his archaeology. I mean, it just takes money. And so he starts digging. And another guy who had the rights to dig in a particular area, he said it's a waste of time. So he said, we're not digging there. Well, so Howard Carter got began digging there. 1922, Howard Carter's partner, Lord Carnarvon. I'm done. Because perseverance is hard. How long are you going to fund this wasted venture? How long? Well, Howard says, I'm out. No, Howard Carter pleaded, begged, oh, let's go one more season. Let me just get one more season out of you. One more. That was on November 4th. On November 1st. On November 2nd of that year, I got it. November 4th of that year, stumbled on a step. And they began digging. And that led to King Tut's tomb. Perseverance. Wow. That's the only reason you know about King Tut. That's the only reason you've ever heard of him, is because the guy persevered. That's it. Wow. No wonder Jesus was so concerned that in our own prayer lives we would not persevere. In fact, he told a parable in Luke 18, and he told them a parable to the effect that they ought always to pray and what? And not lose heart. And he said in a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor respected man. There was a widow in that city who kept coming to him. Showed up in court every day. Here she comes. Okay. And getting somewhat obnoxious, I guess, saying, give me justice against my adversary. Well, the judge refused for a while, but afterward he said, though I neither fear God nor respect man, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will give her justice, so that she will not beat me down by her continual coming. And the Lord said, hear what the unrighteous judge says. This is an unrighteous judge. God's a righteous judge. And will not God give justice to his elect, who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long over them? I tell you, he will give justice to them speedily. I understand? Speedily. Now, it may take a while for God to act, but when he does, it's speedily. Okay? Things start to move quickly at a particular point, like on the stairway. It took years, all of a sudden, hit that step. Boom. Once they found the step, things started to happen very quickly until they found their way all the way to the tomb. So why does Jesus tell us that story? Because it takes faith to persevere. Hey, God, I'm still here, still praying. Remember me. And I know everybody's happy, talking about an answer to prayer, smiling, life's rolling. And when Hannah got married, life was good. I mean, she had found the man of her dreams, but she couldn't have kids. It was devastating. And then to top it off, apparently, you have to read between the lines, the Bible doesn't tell us, but apparently then Elkanah took another wife, and that really had to hurt. Especially when she got pregnant. Man. You're like, God, I walk with you, serve you. And you got to start trying to figure stuff out. You can't always figure things out. So how does it affect your spiritual life when the rubber meets the road? You know, every now and then I get around guys in ministry and I ask them, you know, what's your challenge? And I'm amazed. I mean, I got some guys, nothing. Life's clicking right now. I run. Life's a piece of cake. No big deal. All right. Okay. Whatever, I guess. I mean, it doesn't seem normal, but I guess it is. I got other friends, and, you know, they got their struggles. I mean, everybody's got their challenges. And so, you know, but how long has she been praying for a child? Been quite a while. And listen, one of my favorite books on prayer is called Asking and Receiving, because we like to receive. And I'm going to talk about that next week. I mean, that's kind of my topic, answered prayer. Ooh, that's what I want. That's what I want to talk about. I mean, Hannah seemed to get Luke 18 before Jesus even uttered the words. Why? Because when you persevere, nothing's happening Otherwise, it doesn't take perseverance. But I think we live so much by sight that if we can't see it, we quit digging. We got to see something tangible at the end of the day. No, you persevere because you're living by faith. See, perseverance is an act of faith. It's like, what would faith do? Faith is an action word. So what would faith do? Persevere. So Hannah did. Now, 1 Samuel 1, verse 12. And as she continued praying before the Lord, Eli observed her mouth, and Hannah was speaking in her heart, because the heart matters. Only her lips moved, and her voice was not heard, and therefore Eli thought she was a drunken woman. And tells you a lot about him. He had issues, obviously. We'll meet him in a little bit. And Eli said to her, how long will you go on being drunk? Put your wine away from you. She said, I'm not drunk. I'm troubled in spirit. She says, do not regard your servant as a worthless woman, for all along I have been speaking out of my great anxiety and vexation. You need to keep that in mind, because if you read the Psalms, which is the prayer book in the Bible, it is a prayer book. It's mostly out of great anxiety and vexation. The prayer book in the Bible. Are you with me? So you just have to deal with the reality of the Christian faith. That's why it disturbs me a little bit if people I know feel like they haven't experienced any vexation or anxiety, because I feel like somewhere, because, even in the song we sang, Lord, I need you every hour. So that just bothers me a little bit. I'm not saying you shouldn't have some periods when the stream's flowing really nice, but that's not life, all right, for the most part. Anyway, Eli says, go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition. And she said, let your servant find favor in your eyes. And I love the next phrase, and this is huge. Then the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. Now, you should meditate on that. That's your homework. She has been praying for a long time with great anxiety and vexation of spirit. On this particular day, something happened in her prayer time, and she got up, changed. Wow. And she's no longer sad. Now, here's our prayer life. You with me? We pray. We get the answer. We're happy, right? Joy. Are you with me? Is that not right? Okay, come on, let's be honest. This is church. Isn't that how we are? Clicking our heels, God answered, man, answered my prayer this week. I really needed it. Okay. Has God answered Hannah's prayer yet? No. Now let's look at Hannah's prayer. Let's go ahead. Give me the next slide. She prays. It changes her before she gets the answer, and there is joy. And she got up differently that day before the answer came. And I wonder, I'm telling you, in your own prayer life, you should track this. Seriously. And write it down. Wow. Now, see, we don't like the process. No, we don't. First of all, we have great anxiety. So then we pray about it, and, okay, this whole time issue gets us. How long do I have to wait? And you can find that in the Psalms a lot. How long, oh Lord? Yeah. Persevere. Don't like that either. Don't like that either. You see, we don't like the process. We don't. We like God to microwave our stuff. Like, bing, timer goes off, whoop, food's ready. Nope. God's like, nope, I'm crock-potting it. You mean we can't eat this barbecue till tomorrow? Yep. I'm hungry now. And we don't like the process. We don't. I'm sorry, but we don't. And that's why this prayer thing can get really difficult. And unanswered prayer, it continues to be an obstacle. Because here's what I know. You are an American. And you relish and cherish comfort and convenience. We have AC in our cars. We have cup holders in our cars where it's very convenient to put our coffee, right? Because in the old days, it wasn't so convenient. You put your coffee up on the dash, and when you run around that curb, that was a full cup. And it went across the dash. Some of you might not remember that, but anyway. But it's convenient. And do you know that now even restaurants are finding that they have to change the ingredients they put in their food because a lot of customers are doing takeout now. They want to go home and eat in the convenience of their home, and they want it all just the way they want it. But see, food changes. You know, okay, here's the deal. I'm back in the back. The chef makes the food, sends it out, and it's good right now. But if you're going to take it home, maybe reheat it, I got to change the ingredients because Americans still want it to taste good, but they want the convenience in their home. And a lot of restaurants, this is now 50, even 70% of their business because of convenience. Now, prayer. It's just not convenient to pray for something past a week. It's just, persevere. I guess Hannah understood 1 Peter 5:7 before it was written. Casting all your anxieties on him because he cares for you, Isaiah 26:3. You keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. Think of the acrostic P-U-S-H. Pray until something happens. Israel did they not? Go back and read it. Early part of Exodus. Hannah prayed, or she pushed, having a baby, that's kind of a play on words, right? But Hannah pushed until the baby came, until she got pregnant, right? Probably all the way till she had the baby. Can you push that long? If you're in labor a long time and then the doctor tells you to push, there probably comes a time when a lot of women are like, I'm done, I'm tired of pushing. Hey, now you got to keep pushing until the baby comes. I'm tired of pushing. Yeah. Now, so put yourself in Hannah's shoes. You're barren. You're miserable. You're embarrassed. You use any adjective that you want, any adverb, anything, to describe where you're at. And you don't want to be reminded of your present state of being. What comes to your mind when you think about God? Seriously. A.W. Tozer said, what comes to your mind when you think about God? That is the most important thing about you. And here's what Hannah knew. God delivered Israel. He answered their prayer in the midst of their affliction. And he could answer my prayer. She knew that about God. And that proved to be the turning point in her life, what she thought about God. A.W. Tozer goes on to say, were we able to extract from any man a complete answer to the question, we might predict with certainty the spiritual future of that man. And if you look deep into Hannah's heart, you know what she thinks about God. And did it not determine her spiritual future? It did, and a whole lot more. So what about you? We've got the manuscript on your life up to this point. Now, the manuscript has not been finished, but we've got it up to this point. And if we were to look at your thoughts about God in the manuscript, what conclusions are we drawing about your ultimate spiritual future? See, the good news about the Bible is you can always rewrite your future at any day, any moment. And Hannah rewrote her spiritual future with sacrifice and perseverance. Two tough things. Wow. Let's stand for prayer, shall we?